Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 2010 post-apocalyptic science fiction film The Lost Future. And the apocalypse in this particular case was not your typical devastating war. Instead, it was caused by a strange, highly communicable disease. Just being breathed on by an infected person is enough to catch this illness. Those who suffer from the disease become bestial and homicidal, relentlessly hunting and attacking any uninfected humans they encounter. So, basically, zombies, right? But not zombies because they're not actually dead. Anyway, generations after this disease has devastated the world, a small group of humans survives in an isolated valley. But now they face a big problem. They've hunted out the terrain around them. That forces them to venture further in search of food, which, pretty much inevitably, given the whole setup of the movie, brings a tribe of the infected down upon them. Many of the humans make it into a cave and barricade the entrance, but some are trapped outside. And of course, they are all, though they don't necessarily realise it yet, infected, or at the very least at risk of infection themselves. 3 of those trapped outside the cave go in search of help. They're a pretty archetypical group. There's Savin, the brash son of the chieftain and one of the tribe's best fighters. Then there's his beautiful girlfriend Darrell, whose entire role is basically to be somebody's beautiful girlfriend. And finally, there is Caleb, a good tracker but a bit of a weird dreamer type who has never really fit in. Caleb also happens to have something of an infatuation with Darrell. The trio meet up with a stranger named Amal, played by Sean Bean, who is by far the most recognisable name in the cast. Now, Amal seems to know a whole lot about the infected and reveals that he knew Caleb's father, Jarrett, and that Jarrett had found a cure for those infected, but not yet fully transformed by the disease. Alas, Jarrett was killed and his discovery stolen, so clearly it's now up to these 4 to band together and get it back. So The Lost Future was a German-South American co-production and filmed in the latter country, which probably helped stretch the $7 billion budget. According to a piece of trivia on IMDb, the part of Amal was apparently written with Sean Bean specifically in mind, even before he signed on to the film. This claim has no citation to verify it, so I can't say whether 100% true, but given Bean's willingness to appear in some real tat, the filmmakers probably had reason to feel confident he'd oblige them by doing this. If nothing else, he'd get a trip to a very beautiful part of the world out of doing this movie. The companies funding the film were specialists in television production, and it seems The Lost Future was always intended for TV broadcast. It premiered on the US on the Sci-Fi Channel near the end of 2010 and came to DVD about a year later. Now, reviews were generally mediocre. The film never got a sequel, despite the script obviously including hooks for follow-up features, so I would suggest that financial success also eluded it. But what did I think of it as a film? Well, let's dig in. So there's a TV show called The 100, where a bunch of people try to survive on a post-apocalyptic Earth, but one that has reverted to a lush green wilderness rather than the blasted desert landscape popularised by the Mad Max films. And I enjoyed what I saw of that show, which was the first 2 seasons, even though it suffered from the common TV trope that the survivors were all rather too pretty and very much too clean for their circumstances. And I bring this up because The Lost Future also features a lush, green post-apocalypse, populated with characters that are too pretty and too clean for the life they're living. But whereas what I saw of The 100 did genuinely feel like a science fiction story, with science, some of it mad science, heavily integrated into setting and fiction, The Lost Future, on the other hand, feels more like a lightly reskinned fantasy film. The infected look suspiciously like orcs, for one thing. For another, while there are occasional nods to the post-apocalyptic settings, such as ruined buildings, burned-out cars, and an old wristwatch, it's very much just a case of set dressing. There is a plot point about books and the lost art of reading, but you could easily have reading be a strange and mysterious skill in a medieval-esque fantasy setting too. So there's nothing really here that requires it to be post-apocalyptic. It could just be a fantasy movie with a weird magical illness. So yeah, much of the time this feels more like a low-rent Lord of the Rings quest than a Mad Max adventure yarn. Heck, it even prominently features the most iconic of fantasy film motifs, guys riding horses in forests. Now then, there's the film's depiction of Caleb's infatuation with Darrell, which is, frankly, a bit icky. In particular, there's a scene where Caleb wakes up during the night and watches Darrell and Savannah have sex. And I think we're supposed to feel sorry for him, but I was mostly just thinking, dude, roll over and face the other way. You're being really creepy. The scene portrays Darrell as being aware that Caleb is watching and holding gazes with him as Sivan is making love to her. Presumably, that's to suggest that Darrell is interested in Caleb too, despite being with Sivan, but it doesn't change the fact that Caleb is being a creeper in the first place. Now, Caleb being less creepy would also have helped the film with the ratings board. The filmmakers were aiming for a PG level rating, but got a more mature audiences designation, specifically due to this scene. Interestingly, the film's plot synopsis on Wikipedia erroneously describes this scene as having Sivan watch Caleb and Darrell, which is wrong, but I can pretty easily see how the mistake was made. The two male characters look very similar, so much so that I took to telling them apart by the fact that Sivan is wearing a pendant, and that's how I know it was definitely him in bed with Darrell, because he's got the pendant on. But just based on the faces, it's two handsome white guys with beards, very similar looking. Now, Wikipedia tells me that some reviewers have criticised this film for having unfinished subplots, but I think that's maybe a little bit unfair. I mean, sure, Caleb's crush on Darrell remains unresolved at the end of the movie, but frankly, I think that's a heck of a lot healthier than the alternative. But, you know, the crux of the film, the quest that they are on, Save the Tribe from the Effective, is well and truly resolved. It's not like the movie ends on a big honking to be continued sign. So I think it would be more accurate to say that some subplots were underdeveloped rather than incomplete. For instance, Amal has a relationship with a group of fighters known as the Brotherhood. This group turn up to help out in the final battle. That's definitely pretty thin writing, but it's not like the movie's raising a bunch of questions about the Brotherhood. Who are they? What do they want? That sort of thing, and then leaving them unanswered. They're just convenient allies within the story. So yeah, personally, I was tolerably entertained by The Lost Future. The made-for-TV budget does occasionally show through, and the script does have some weak elements, but the cast is solid enough, and if you watch it as the light entertainment it's intended to be, you probably won't dislike it. Now, I think you'd be much better off watching The 100, mind you, or at least the first 2 seasons of it. I've heard mixed reports about later seasons, but the first 2 seasons, solid stuff. Next time, the British spy thriller The Looking Glass War, based on the John le Carré novel of the same name. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've seen The Lost Future, or The 100 for that matter, let me know what you thought of it.